and build cool cars. If you're new here, consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon so you stay up to date. We're gonna learn a whole lot about cars and see some pretty cool stuff. Let's jump into the video.
What's up, guys? I'm here with Tyler, and this is his 2011 Lexus ISF, so he's gonna go in and tell you guys everything about the car.
Good morning. As he said, this is my 2011 ISF. I've had it about 2 years now. I got it with 65,000 miles on it. These come with the 5-liter V8s, 8-speed transmissions. Since I've had it, I've done PPE headers. It had a Josie catback exhaust. I did the RR tuned intake, the RR racing, and the tune. It's a little bit more carbon fiber on here. The previous owner already had some of it. I also purchased the Vegaks CE28s from him. They're 19s. The fronts are 19 by 8s with plus 45 offset, and the rears are 19 by 9.5s with plus 43 offset. Other than that, there's not really too many crazy mods you can do to these cars other than forced induction from RR Racing. Some people have gone turbo route, but it's all custom.
Yeah, so it's a really cool looking car. Now with all those power mods, how much horsepower do you think the car's putting down?
Okay, so right after the headers were installed at Briggs, he put it on the dyno, and SAE correction, I think ambient temp that day was around 80. It made 423 to the wheels, and then it made 394 foot-pounds of torque to the wheels.
Wow, so 423 to the wheels. Now how much does the car actually make from the factory?
From the factory, they make 416 crank stock, and to the wheels, 90% of ISFs range around 355 to 360 to the wheels.
Okay,
bone
so
stock.
That's a pretty,
yeah, you'll get like
right
70 wheel horsepower just out of, your bolt-ons.
Yeah, without having to boost it or anything. That's a really good setup. But overall, I just really love the way you have your car set up here, because you've got like the carbon fiber, the Volk wheels, and it's just like the color of the wheels with the black car overall just looks really good. And tell us more about the ISF and really what drew you to this car and made you want to get the ISF.
So the ISF was a vehicle designed back in 06 to 07 by a small group of engineers at Lexus and Toyota, also working in partnership with Yamaha, mostly for the engine design. So they came out in 2008. That was the first model year. There are some differences throughout the years. So 08 to 09 was the first version, obviously. No major driveline changes, other than in 2010 they added the limited slip differential, the Torsen. I have no idea why they thought it was a good idea to put open diffs in the 08s to 09s, but they fixed their mistake. So 2010 you got the LSD diff. That was the only change. Then in 2011 they updated the interior. You could get the Alcantara seats. Before it was just all leather. The gauge cluster, one of my favorite things. In 08 through 10, they had like an analog setup, side by side, same size, tack speedo. In 2011, they took a vibe from the LFA and did the big tack with the digital speedo in the center.
So is that what this car has?
Yeah, that's what this car has.
Tack?
It's got the big tack,
That's
and then
so
to the
cool.
right of it, in like the right corner, a small analog speedo.
Nice, nice.
Which, in my opinion, looks much cleaner. Yeah, I really like that
better. I also
better.
think it's so cool having like, this is definitely a driver-focused vehicle.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's so cool having like that big tack right in front of you to show, like who needs to see miles per hour, right? You just see the main RPM gauge, which is awesome. So speaking more towards like RPM and all that, is this an automatic, correct?
It is.
So what speed is it?
It's an 8-speed.
Wow, 8-speed.
So some cool history on that is Toyota was the first brand to make an 8-speed. I want to say it's back in 07 they came out with it's the ASIN 8-speed. So what makes these cars great is the transmission. For their time, they were very impressive. I mean, this was back in 07 when this car was designed and released as an 08 model. And of course, back then there was an 8-speed, so people were like, why do you need 8 gears? That's too many gears. And now everyone's running 10 speeds.
Yeah.
But the good thing about this is it's similar to a dual clutch. And its performance, once you're above into the higher RPMs and you're giving it the beans, it shifts like a dual clutch in a way.
Yeah.
But it's a standard transmission, standard torque converted transmission. Lexus has it designed, I'm not sure what RPM it is, but once you're over about 5,000 RPM and you're to the floor with it, the ECU locks the converter up. So you just get quick shifts. And Lexus's specs on that was when you're in manual mode and you're going all out, you get 1/10 of a second shifts, which
that's
this
so
is back in 08.
That's
so
for
a Lexus.
Regardless of the time, that's so crazy. And also, like you said, for a Lexus, because keep in mind, even now, we do have the LFA, the RCF, the LC500, all these more performance cars from Lexus, but at the time, this is really the only offering from Lexus that
this is the flagship F model. This is the first F model of all Lexus's line. So, you know, this was like Genesis for them. But going into the engine, obviously the best part of the car, it's a 5-liter V8. So the engine was designed with Toyota and Yamaha.
Okay.
So one of the big things is the cylinder heads were all Yamaha. I'm pretty sure they were pretty much 100% designed by Yamaha. A big thing about this car was they designed it to be a track car with track car driving in mind. So the oil system is very good. I mean, an oil change on this car is 10 quarts to refill. Yamaha put in scavenge pumps in the cylinder heads to keep oil pumped from the crankcase up through the cylinder heads, keep everything lubricated.
So now with all that power, how does the car handle it? Because this, like we said, it's like Lexus's first, you know, performance car. How is it really handling? Because you go from like Lexus, which is a luxury brand, to now a performance car. So just overall, how does the car feel and handle all that power?
So this car is on Coilovers.
Which brand are they?
They're Tyne, however you want to pronounce that name. Okay. They're the Street Advance. They're nowhere near the most expensive you can buy. I mean, I think these coilovers are like $650, $700 for the set for this car. And they're not a very high spring rate. So I think I want to say these are like 8K, like all around, which is a really good blend of, you know, driving on the main roads. And if you want to do some spirited driving, it's a perfect mix.
Even probably tracker driving, I feel like.
Oh yeah, I've tracked it at Roebling and it was great. But nice. I would say the suspension setup on it now, it's a perfect mix of both worlds. I mean, it's super comfy to drive, but when you want it to, I mean, it drives like it's on rails. Like you can go aggressively into your corners, whatnot, and all that. And I mean, the car just handles great.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really cool that you have like this car that not only looks good and is more of like the luxury car, but also handles the power, because you can have a whole bunch of horsepower, but if you can't put it to the ground, then it's kind of useless, right? So overall, I just think it's really cool. Now, what actually got you into cars?
From being a young kid up until probably my early 20s, you couldn't entertain me with an import car, you know? Other than, of course, the original Fast and the Furious, Paul's Supra. Obviously, everyone loves that thing. But other than that, you couldn't entertain me with an import car. I grew up going to classic car shows with my family and my great uncle, and I was all about American muscle. My first car was a 1970 Monte Carlo. What got me into tuners was really once I joined the military, just becoming friends with people in my unit from, you know, around the country. A lot of them, you know, not from the South, so they were into imports and whatnot, and it really just got me into it. And then probably when I bought my stepdad's IS300 back in like 2014, 2015, and of course those come with the 2JZ GE, naturally aspirated, super slow, you know, nothing crazy. Just went into it from there, like what could I do with this car, looking at what other people did, you know, and of course the 2JZ, just learned everything I could about it. And then after that, you know, I was pretty much sold on imports, you know, and I've always respected Toyota for just their simplicity, their reliability. I mean, it's no argument, they are the most reliable car brand in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, that's short story, you know, muscle cars and then into tuners, and now I just love all cars.
That's awesome. And I also think like, kind of how you mentioned like muscle cars is like really what you originated with. I think it's really cool because I wouldn't consider this a muscle car, but it definitely has characteristics that could remind you of a muscle car, like, you know, having the 8-cylinder engine, rear-wheel drive, just a really fun car like that. But once again, it is more of like a sports sedan, so it can handle all that power and corner really well. So I just think it's really cool. But other than that, let's go ahead and take the car for a drive and see how it feels. I'm not gonna go full throttle yet. bounces off the rev limiter. Oh my god. That's so crystal clear. It must be because it's gutted back there.
Yeah, it did make it a little bit louder in the cabin, in a good way.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, I literally feel like I'm right at the exhaust tips, which is crazy.
One more. And downshift when you brake. There you go. Yeah. Don't hammer in second through a turn like that, because it will fucking.
It will.
It'll break.
Okay. Yeah, I was like 10% throttle there.
Third gear, you can do it if you're in a corner bar.
Dude, that like, it must be because like the 8-cylinder just like, there's just so much power down low. Like the torque is insane.
It feels more than 420.
Oh, easily. Like this feels amazing. Like it's a really nice, smooth power delivery. Like my first impressions of just getting into the car like immediately is it rides like a Lexus, but the moment you give it any type of spirited, you know, input like throttle or turn it, it does not feel like a regular Lexus, which is amazing in my opinion, because you get the smooth, comfortable Lexus drive that everyone loves, but once you want to get on it, you pretty much don't, like it's weird how like it different and automatically feels.
Yeah.
Like right now I'm just cruising at, you know, like 50 miles per hour in 8th gear, and you don't even hear the exhaust, and then if I just that's amazing. My goodness.
Yeah, sometimes I do that just at low RPM, just go all the way to just hear it go.
Exactly. Like it shifts really fast. Like
it's like you said, how when you're just driving it normally, it's a great road trip car. It's a great all-around car. I mean, this thing on the highway, when I go on road trips, I'll leave it in 8th gear, and if I cruise at 75, it'll get like 26 miles to the gallon.
Really?
Yeah, as long as I'm not giving it the beans. I mean, it's just...
So let's say you're on it, you know, pretty spirited. How's your gas mileage with that?
I average, usually, the way I drive it, around 17.
That's still really good.
Yeah.
I mean, like, for an 8-cylinder, to drive it fast, things like that, to still be getting that mileage, that's awesome. I think it also has part to do with, like, the transmission, you know, with it being an 8-speed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, on the highway, you can
stay in those low RPM, just keep it in 8. And even around town, like, when you're going 50, like you see it now, it's at like 1500 RPM, just cruising. Yeah. I mean, super economical.
That shifts so fast.
Yeah.
That's impressing me a lot. Like, was
for
not expecting it.
For not being a dual clutch, it is pretty sweet.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta give it to you. I think Lexuses are like most like F models, like actual F models, have that really cool, like when you bounce off the rev limiter, especially with an aftermarket exhaust, that sound, like it just bounces so fast. Like, oh,
it's a pretty intense rev limit.
I love it.
And just hug it.
Really?
Yep.
This thing is so fast. Oh my gosh. Every time I like drive it and then I look at the speed, I'm like, okay, that's a lot. This is just so, like, there's just so much.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, I love this thing. Like this.
I love letting people drive it because it catches people off guard. It's by no means the fastest thing on the road, you know. Not trying to say that at all, but I mean, it's a driver's car. Like,
yeah.
It's very in tune with the driver.
And like at the end of the day, is it fun? 100%. Like this thing is, if it can put a smile on my face this fast, I love it. Like this definitely has my approval. I'll give you that.
Yeah. You should do a come to a stop and then in first gear, and then kind of creep up to like 15 mile an hour, and then just hit it, and then
okay. Will it spin?
Yeah, but your traction control, it'll spin, but it won't let you get crazy.
hooks. Like you said, it did spin, like, well, a little bit, but it doesn't interfere. It still just went straight.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I mean, that thing, wow. Like, kind of get your heart rate going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I shifted at like 5.5 or 6,000. In redline's what you say, 72?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, but you see what I mean? Like if you shift before like 6,000, it kind of is like a torque converted shift. It's still fast, but it doesn't give you that like snap.
It definitely feels like if you're in the low RPM, like here I'm at 3,000, I'll shift from 3rd to 4th. That's still fast though.
Yeah.
Like if you compare it to like a regular economy car, that's plenty, like worlds faster, but definitely you notice a difference. Up in the RPM, like close to redline versus low, it's way different. I think that also probably has part to do with Lexus simply being, they still want to have luxury in the car, so if you're driving it normally, it's not going to be like snapping your neck with each shift, but it's still, you know, plenty.
This one, like if you go straight, if you don't do it in manual mode and you give it a lot of gas or like floor it or whatever, it'll shift like a manual, like there'll be a good pause in between shifts. I think it sounds pretty cool.
So let's go ahead and floor it in auto. That does sound so much different. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it had like that little pause there. That's so incredible. Now, does this car have like a sport mode or anything?
Yeah, you're in sport mode.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So obviously more throttle response, whatever. But the one thing I like a lot about sport mode is, so go ahead and feel your steering wheel real good. You kind of feel what its feedback it's giving you because it's electric power steering. Now turn sport mode off right there on your right. Now feel it.
Whoa.
Yeah, way more assist. Kind of loose feeling.
Feels. I mean, it still is tight just in the nature of the car, but like that's a note. Like I noticed that instantly.
Yeah. So when you're in sport mode, it reduces the assist by like 20%. I want to say.
Okay.
It was a big complaint from the original ISFs, the 08s through 10s, that there wasn't enough steering response or steering feedback from the road. It was too Lexusy.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things they did on the 2011 revisions was the steering ECU.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely like, I think one of my favorite things about this car is the fact that it's like a sports sedan. It actually has power. Like it's fun to drive, but it's still a Lexus.
Oh, it's a great all-around car. I mean, you can slide this car. You can go to the drag strip in this car. These are all things I've done. I've tracked this car. I've road tripped this car. I mean, just all around, it's just a great car. Like
exactly. I mean, this thing will do it all, and I love cars that are capable of doing it all. I just think it's really cool because, you know, yeah, it's cool to have a car that can only go in a straight line, but really fast, or like a car that can corner well, but doesn't really go anywhere in a straight line. You know, it's cool to have all that, but the fact that this car is able to accelerate quickly, corner amazingly, just like grip from a dead stop, like that's pretty impressive. And I definitely think Lexus did a great job with this car. And also keep in mind, like this is Lexus's essentially like it is their first F car.
Yeah.
So for this to be their first car, it's a great job.
When this came out, you know, in 2008 versus like the power cars are making back then, I mean, this was kind of ahead of its time.
For sure. Like 100%. Even now, like today, I would say this car does not feel its age. Like if you get in any other car from this time frame, they start showing their age. But Lexus also with having like very luxury interiors, this car doesn't feel, you know, like out of date. Like I actually think this car, time-wise, aged very well.
Yeah, it's a very simple interior because I'm not sure if you've ever been to the RCFs, but they kind of added all the infotainment upgrades and like all the little bells and whistles and everything. And I like that the ISF doesn't have that. Like you've got your infotainment here, you've got your shifter here, and you've got your gauge cluster, and that's kind of all that's going on with this car. You don't have your little mouse pad and Lexus and a big old touchscreen up here, you know, it's simple and it's to the point. Big tack, paddle shifters, it's like down to business.
What else do you need? You just need your big tack, paddle shifters, and your gas and your brake pedal. Literally, that's all you need in a driver's car. Well, there's obviously more to it, but you don't need all, like we were saying, like with this infotainment system, you don't need all that. Like, it's you know, it's cool, but I definitely appreciate these like more timeless designs where it's very simple. You kind of get what you need and that's all. There's no extra stuff that you don't really want. Like, yeah, it might be cool just for daily driving, but just for spirited driving, like, this is perfect. So let's go ahead and launch this car. I had to let off there because I was like, oh, we're still spinning. Like, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And then oh my goodness. It's just like so much. Like, oh, it's addicting. Like, you just want to just.
Yeah. I've told people when I first meet them, or they're looking at the car like, oh, how much power does it make? I'm like, it made 423 to the wheels. And they go for a ride and they're like, how much did you say it made?
Yeah,
like 423. They're like, it made a little bit more than that. I'm like, no, that's what it made. DynoJet SAE correction at Briggs in Savannah.
Yeah, I mean, it does way more than what it feels like, which is crazy. But like, it's controllable though. You know, like it's not like, okay, it has all this power, but you can't use it. Like, no, I mean, that was from a dead stop first gear. It just hooked. Those brakes are good. My goodness. This thing, if you want it to spin, it'll just spin. It's so crazy.
It'll spin going into third. That's why always, once I'm done playing around, I let off to let it hook up, and then I'll just shift to third, then I'll lay into it.
Okay.
Because on these cars, if you're spinning, like free spinning the wheel, and you just go straight to third and you keep spinning, you will not control the car because the tires are spinning at 100 mile an hour at that point, or right at 95, and there's no controlling the car. But I never let it spin into third gear.
That's so good.
You're just asking to end up into a ditch. But first gear and second gear, you can bang it all day.
Overall, the ISF is a really fun car to drive, and I would even argue that this is definitely like the ultimate daily. And just overall, I think it's a really enjoyable car, and if you're looking for a car that's fun to drive, can pretty much do it all, and is super reliable being a Lexus, then this is literally the way to go. So overall, I'm just really happy with the car, and I think most people would really enjoy the way this car feels. So there you have it. That was Tyler's ISF. It's a super cool car, and I'm sure you enjoyed the video. But other than that, if you want to see more videos just like this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.